South Africa has 11 official languages, of which Afrikaans is the third most spoken, with a prevalence of 12%. A majority of the population cannot understand Afrikaans, and many refuse to speak it on principle, as it is regarded by some as the language of oppression during the apartheid era. 173. Michael O'Leary subsequently announced that the test was being dropped following outrage in South Africa. 174. 175. Publicity. CO2 emissions. In 2018, Ryanair became the first airline and the only non-coal power plant to be among the 10 companies with highest amount of CO2 emissions in the EU. That year, Ryanair had an emission equivalent of 9.9 megatons of CO2. Emissions had risen by 49% over 5 years. Environmentalists criticized the airline harshly and saw it as a sign of the lack of taxation of aviation. 176. In 2020, Ryanair was criticized for releasing misleading advertisements through their claim they were Europe's lowest emissions airline, using figures from an airline efficiency rating dating back to 2011. 177. Controversial advertising. A Ryanair Boeing 737-800 displaying Bye Bye Lufthansa titles referring to German competitor Lufthansa in 2008. Ryanair's advertising and the antics of Michael O'Leary, such as deliberately courting controversy to generate free publicity for the airline. 178. Have led to several complaints to the Advertising Standards Authority, ASA, and occasionally court action being taken against the airline. 179. 29. 180. 181. An example of this was the live BBC News interview on 27 February 2009 when Michael O'Leary, observing that it was a quiet news day, commented that Ryanair was considering charging passengers £1 to use its toilet on its flights. The story subsequently made headlines in the media for several days and drew attention to Ryanair's announcement that it was removing check-in desks from airports and replacing them with online check-in. 8 days later, O'Leary eventually admitted that it was a publicity stunt, saying it is not likely to happen, but it makes for interesting and very cheap PR. 182. The concept of Ryanair charging for even this most essential of customer services was foreseen by the spoof news website The Mardale Times some 5 months previously. In its article, Ryanair announced new pay-per-poo service. 183. Ryanair often uses advertising to make direct comparisons and attack its competitors. One of its advertisements used a picture of the mannequin pies, a famous Belgian statue of a urinating child, with the words, "Pissed off with Saabner's high fares. Low fares have arrived in Belgium." Saabner sued and the court ruled that the advertisements were misleading and offensive. Ryanair was ordered to discontinue the advertisements immediately or face fines. Ryanair was also obliged to publish an apology and publish the court decision on its website. Ryanair used the apologies for further advertising, primarily for further price comparisons. 179. Another provocative ad campaign headlined "Expensive Bastards" compared Ryanair with British Airways. As with Saabner, British Airways disagreed with the accompanying price comparisons and brought legal action against Ryanair. However, in this case, the High Court sided with Ryanair and threw Baz's case out, ordering the BA to make a payment towards Ryanair's court costs. The judge ruled the complaint amounts to this, that Ryanair exaggerated in suggesting BA is 5 times more expensive because BA is only 3 times more expensive. 184. In 2007, Ryanair used an advertisement for its new Belfast route which showed Sinn Féin's Martin McGuinness, Northern Ireland Deputy First Minister and a former senior commander of the IA, standing alongside party President Gerry Adams with a speech bubble which said Ryanair fares are so low even the British Army flew home. 185, 186, 187, Ulster Unionists reacted angrily to the advertisement, while the Advertising Standards Authority said it did not believe the ad would cause widespread offence. 188, an advertisement depicting a model dressed as a schoolgirl was accompanied by the words "hottest back to school fares." Ryanair advertised 2 Scottish and 1 UK-wide newspaper. After receiving 13 complaints, the advertisement was widely reported by national newspapers. The Advertising Standards Authority, ASA, instructed the airline to withdraw the advertisement in the United Kingdom, saying that it appeared to link teenage girls with sexually provocative behavior and was irresponsible and likely to cause serious or widespread offense. Ryanair said that it would not be withdrawing this ad and would not provide the ASO with any of the undertakings they seek, on the basis that it found it absurd that a picture of a fully clothed model is now claimed to cause serious or widespread offence when many of the UK's leading daily newspapers regularly run pictures of topless or partially dressed females without causing any serious or widespread offence. 189, in late 2020, the airline faced criticism over its Jab and Go advert. 190. Misleading advertising. Although it usually does not serve the primary airports of major European cities, Ryanair has been criticized for placing the names of famous cities on distant secondary airports that were not built for tourist traffic and lack transit links to the main city. Examples include Paris-Beauvais, 85 kilometers, 53 mi, north-northwest of Paris, Brussels South, 46 kilometers, 29 mi, to the south of Brussels, Milan-Bergamo, 45 kilometers, 28 mi, from Milan, Frankfurt-Hahn, 102 kilometers, 63 mi, from Frankfurt and actually closer to the cities of Koblenz and Mainz, Düsseldorf-Wies, 83 kilometers, 52 mi, from Düsseldorf and closer to Arnhem or Essen, Glasgow-Prestwick, 55 kilometers, 34 mi, from Glasgow, Stockholm-Skavsta, 84 kilometers, 52 mi, from Stockholm, and Barcelona-Reus, 88 kilometers, 55 mi, from Barcelona. Frommes has dubbed Ryanair the ultimate bait-and-switch airline for this deceptive practice. 191. Ryanair was ordered by the ASA to stop claiming that its flights from London to Brussels were faster than Thrail connection Eurostar, because the claim was misleading, due to the required travel times to the airports mentioned. Ryanair stood by its claims, noting that the flight time is shorter than the train trip and that travel time is also required to reach Eurostar's stations. 192, 193, in April 2008, Ryanair faced a probe by the UK Office of Fair Trading, after a string of complaints about its adverts. It was found to have breached advertising rules 7 times in 2 years. ASA's Director General Christopher Graham commented that formal referrals to the OFT were rare, the last occurring in 2005. He had taught the ASA would prefer to work with advertisers within the self-regulatory system rather than call in a statutory body, but Ryanair's approach has left us with no option. Ryanair countered with the claim that the ASA had demonstrated a repeated lack of independence, impartiality and fairness. 194. In July 2009, Ryanair took several steps to increase the clarity and transparency of its website and other advertising after reaching an agreement with the OFT. The airline's website now includes a statement that fares don't include optional fees /charges, and they now include a table of fees to make fare comparisons easier. 195. In July 2010, Ryanair once again found itself in controversy regarding alleged misleading advertising. Ryanair circulated advertisements in 2 newspapers offering £10 one-way fares to European destinations. Following a complaint from rival carrier EasyJet, the ACER ruled the offer was likely to mislead. 196. Ryanair did not comment on the claim but did hit back at EasyJet, claiming it cared about details in this regard but did not itself publicize its on-time statistics. EasyJet denied this. In April 2011, Ryanair advertised a place in the sun destinations, but the advert was banned when it was found that some of the destinations experienced sunshine for as little as 3 hours per day and temperatures between 0 and 14 degrees Celsius, 32 and 57 degrees Fahrenheit. 197. In 2016, Ryanair stated that websites such as Apodo and CheapOair and their partners engaged in screen scraping and false advertising, and attempted to prevent them from showing Ryanair data. 198. In February 2020, the Advertising Standards Authority told Ryanair to provide adequate evidence to support environmental claims after the ACER banned adverts that claimed Ryanair was the lowest emissions airline in Europe for being misleading. 199. Ryanair had claimed in the adverts that they had the lowest carbon emissions of any major airline, and it was a low CO2 emissions airline based on Europe's top 27 airlines. 199. The ASA queried some figures and the definition of a major airline for the purposes of assessing. 199. Complainants said adverts were misleading and could not be substantiated. 199. In response to the ACER, Ryanair cited data from Eurocontrol and airline efficiency rankings from Brighter Plant. 199. However, the ACER said that Ryanair had used an efficiency ranking from 2011 which was of little value as substantiation for a comparison made in 2019. 199. The ACER said that customers would interpret the adverts as saying that flying with Ryanair would mean they contributed fewer CO2 emissions to the Earth atmosphere, which could not be proven. 199. The ASA said that the adverts ads must not appear again in their current forms as claims in them could not be substantiated. 199. Criticism of surcharges. In February 2011, a Ryanair passenger, Myro Garcia, brought a claim against Ryanair for unfair surcharges, claiming that the €40, £30, surcharge on passengers who failed to print out a boarding card before arrival at the airport was unfair. Judge Barbara Cordoba, sitting in the commercial court in Barcelona, held that, under international air travel conventions, Ryanair can neither demand passengers turn up at the airport with their boarding pass, nor charge them €40, £30, if they do not, and that the fines were abusive because aviation law obliges airlines to issue boarding passes. Judge Cordoba stated, "I declare abusively and, therefore, null the clause in the contract by which Ryanair obliges the passenger to take a boarding pass to the airport." The customary practice over the years has been that the obligation to provide the boarding pass has always fallen on the airline. The judge ordered a refund for Mr. Garcia and said the fact the company was a low-cost carrier did not allow it to alter its basic contractual obligations. 25. Ryanair appealed the decision and the appeals court in Spain overturned the ruling in November 2011, holding that the surcharge complies with international law. 200. In December 2011, Ryanair announced that it would fight against the UK Treasury's plan to ban what Which magazine called rip-off charges made when customers paid by credit card. 201. EU legislation has already been drafted against surcharges for methods of payment. 202. Fuel incidents. On the 26th of July, 2012, 3 Ryanair aircraft inbound to Madrid Barajas Airport diverted to Valencia Airport due to severe thunderstorms in the Madrid area. All 3 aircraft declared an emergency, Mayday, when the calculated usable fuel on landing at Valencia Airport was less than the final reserve, 30 minutes of flight, after having been held in the air for 50 to 69 minutes. 203. The Irish Aviation Authority investigated the incidents and came to several conclusions, including the aircraft in all 3 cases departed for Madrid with fuel over flight plan requirements. The crew diverted to Valencia with fuel more than the minimum diversion fuel depicted on the flight plan. Diverting with fuel close to minimum diversion fuel in the circumstances presented on the evening in question was likely to present challenges for the crew. Initial holding was to the southwest of Madrid, which increased the diversion time to the alternate. The crew declared an emergency by EU ops when the calculated usable fuel for landing at Valencia was less than final reserve. The met conditions in Madrid were more significant than anticipated by the crew when reviewing the met forecast. Consequently, the additional fuel carried was influenced by the forecast. Operations into a busy airport such as Madrid in thunderstorm conditions with the associated traffic levels can add significant delays to all traffic. Air traffic control in Valencia was under significant pressure with the number of diversions arriving in their airspace. 204. The Irish Aviation Authority made several recommendations, including that Ryanair should review its fuel policy and consider issuing guidance to crew concerning fuel when operating into busy airports with mixed aircraft operators and types, particularly in poor weather conditions when diversions are likely. 204. The IA also recommended that the Spanish Aviation Safety and Security Agency review delays into Madrid to consider if additional fuel should be recommended or required to be carried in normal operations, particularly where the southerly runways are in operation. 204. Among the causes of the incident, the Civil Aviation Accident and Incident Investigation Commission concluded that the company's fuel savings policy, though it complies with the minimum legal requirements, tends to minimize the amount of fuel with which its aircraft operate and leaves none for contingencies below the legal minimums. This contributed to the amount of fuel used being improperly planned and to the amount of fuel on board dropping below the required final fuel reserve. 205. In an interview with the Dutch investigative journalism program KRO Reporter, 4 anonymous Ryanair pilots claimed they were being pressured to carry as little fuel as possible on board to cut costs. 206. Ryanair and its CEO Michael O'Leary denied the allegations and sued KRO. 207. 208. On the 16th of April, 2014, the Dutch court decided that KRO had provided sufficient evidence in 2 television episodes of Mayday broadcast in 2012 and 2013 to back the claims in respect of Ryanair's fuel policy and fear culture. It also found that Ryanair had been given a right to reply in response to the claims. The broadcast of the programs was found to be in public interest. Ryanair was ordered to pay the legal costs of the case. 209. Handling of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. Starting in late March 2020, in response to flight cancellations due to travel restrictions set by governments due to COVID-19, Ryanair was forced to cancel flights. This resulted in many of their staff being placed on furlough, with pay being cut by up to 50% for some employees placed on the Irish Temporary Wage Subsidy Scheme, TWSS. 210. The handling of refunds from Ryanair has caused a surge in complaints to the Commission for Aviation Regulation, CAR, with customers claiming that they have been refused a refund for the flight cancellation. 211. many organizations have taken a stance against the aviation industry via actions or declarations in the press. 212. The Italian Civil Aviation Authority enacted